At 7 years old, a Spartan boy was taken from his mother, and he never really came home again. Not as a punishment, as a design, because Sparta had figured out something we've spent 2,500 years trying to forget. Comfort doesn't build strong people. Engineered hardship does. This is how Sparta manufactured the most feared warriors who ever lived, and the dark price they paid to do it. Here's the first thing to understand. The Spartans did not believe great warriors were born. They believed they were built on purpose, like a product. The factory was called the Agoge. At age 7, a Spartan boy left home for good and entered a state-run training system that ran for the next 11 years. And every single part of it was engineered to remove one thing: comfort. He got one cloak for the whole year, summer and winter. He went barefoot to harden his feet. He slept on a bed, the reeds that he had to cut himself by hand from the river. And here is the part that sounds insane. They kept him hungry on purpose. The rations were deliberately too small. The message was simple. If you want more, go take it. Steal it. But if you got caught stealing, you were beaten brutally. Now think about that logic. They didn't punish the theft. They punished getting caught. They were teaching cunning, resourcefulness, the ability to operate under pressure when the system gives you nothing. And one more lesson burned in early. The system is always watching. So understand what Sparta actually did. They took the one thing we spend our whole lives chasing, comfort, and they deleted it from a child's entire world. And out the other end came men the ancient world was terrified of. But why? Why would starving a child and freezing him build strength instead of just breaking him? Because of something the Spartans understood by instinct that science only proved thousands of years later. A body shielded from all stress gets weak. A body exposed to the right amount of stress gets stronger. We have a name for it now: Hormesis. A controlled dose of hardship forces the system to adapt. Cold, hunger, exhaustion. Each one is a signal that tells the body and the mind, get tougher or you won't survive the next one. The Spartans were running that experiment on human beings every day for 11 years, but the physical part was only half of it. The other half was the group. In the Agoge, you were never alone. You trained together. You starved together. You were watched constantly by older boys and by the whole community. Fail, and you were mocked in public. Win, and you rose. Your suffering was never private. It was a competition with witnesses, and that did something powerful. It made the group your identity. By the time a Spartan stood in the battle line, shoulder to shoulder in the phalanx, breaking ranks wasn't just dangerous, it was unthinkable, because the men beside him weren't his comrades. They were the only self he had ever known. Shared hardship, constant pressure, a body trained to adapt instead of flinch. That is the recipe. That is how you build someone who does not break. So far, this sounds like the ultimate self-improvement program. It wasn't. And this is the part most people leave out. Sparta wasn't building strong individuals. It was building a weapon for the state. And that weapon ran on something brutal. Sparta sat on top of a massive enslaved population called the Helots. who vastly outnumbered the Spartans themselves. The entire war machine, all that famous discipline, existed to keep those people crushed. There was even a secret institution, the Krypteia, where young Spartans were sent out to spy on the Helots and kill the ones who looked too strong or too defiant. Terror as a tool of control. So the discipline was real, but it was discipline in the service of domination. There was no room for the individual, no freedom, no softness, no self. You belonged to the state completely. And here's the irony that ends the whole story. That rigid, comfort-free, all-war society, the one engineered for ultimate strength, eventually collapsed. It was too brittle to change, too few citizens because the standards were impossible, too inflexible to adapt when the world shifted around it. Sparta deleted comfort so completely that it also deleted its own ability to bend, and anything that cannot bend eventually breaks. So Sparta is two things at once, a blueprint and a warning. So here's where it lands for you and me. We have built the exact opposite of Sparta, a world of total comfort, climate control, endless food, a screen that deletes every moment of boredom, friction, engineered out of existence. And then we sit in all that comfort and wonder why we feel soft, restless, anxious, weak in a way we can't quite name. The Spartans would have understood that feeling instantly because they proved the rule in the most extreme way possible. A life with no hardship doesn't make you happy. It makes you fragile. But here is the line you cannot cross. The answer is not to become Spartan. You shouldn't want to. Their system was brutal, unfree, built on the suffering of others, and it shattered. The answer is one word they never had: chosen. The Spartan's hardship was forced on him. Yours can be chosen, and that single difference changes everything. Pick one discomfort on purpose: the cold shower, the hard workout, the hunger you don't immediately fix, boredom you don't reach for your phone to kill. Work toward it because you decided to, not because a state forced you. That's the part Sparta got right, without the part that destroyed them. Voluntary hardship is the only kind that makes you stronger and keeps you free. So I want to hear from you. Be honest. What is one comfort you would give up starting this week to get stronger? And tell me this: if you'd been handed to the Agoge at 7 years old, do you think you'd have made it out? Or would Sparta have broken you? Drop it in the comments. And if this changed how you see comfort, subscribe. Because history isn't just stories, it's instructions we forgot how to read.